Hello, I am D-Man, and today I'll be talking about Dominion, the deck building card game, more specifically, Dominion Alchemy, more specifically, a theoretical second edition. I've done a video like this before on Dark Ages, which is a different expansion. Alchemy is known as the worst expansion, and it's probably not going to get a second edition. Unlike Dark Ages, which probably will get one at some point, which is a bit of a shame because, Dominion Alchemy could probably use a second edition. One reason is it's really small, right? I mean, the base game comes with 26 Kingdom cards. Dark Ages comes with 35 Kingdom cards, and Alchemy comes with 12, which is like nothing. So yeah, I've designed some cards. I'm going to be talking about them. I'll talk about the cards I've kept, the cards I've removed, and so on and so forth. Let's just get right into it, eh? Dominion Alchemy. What's it known for? It's known for potions, right? The potions are a different currency, right? Normally things cost money. The potion makes things cost potion, or maybe potion and money. And so whenever you have a card with a potion cost in it, you add the potions to it, right? Which the potions cost 4, so you buy one of those, then you can start buying potion cost cards. The issue is, sometimes there's only like one potion card, or one potion cost card, and is it really worth getting the potion just for that? Maybe, but... So that's why I've added the Mystical Springs. Whenever you have a kingdom card that costs potion, you add the potions and the Mystical Springs. The Mystical Springs are a victory card. They give you 4 points at the end of the game, and it costs $3 and a potion. So you'll always have at least 2 cards that cost potion in a potion game. It's kind of funny as well. So, potion is sort of an in-between of silver and gold, while the Mystical Springs are an in-between of duchy and province. That just feels right to me. I like this because it's just it's another thing to do. You can go for the provinces. You go for the Mystical Springs if you want, or maybe you don't want a ton of that potion cost card, and you've still got this potion, so you might as well use it to buy the Mystical Springs. That's probably when you'll get this card, but it's better than nothing. Now let's talk about the cards I've actually kept, right? Out of the 12 cards, I've kept half of them, and they are Apprentice, which is a trashing card. You trash a card and you draw cards equal to its cost. It does not cost potion, it costs $5. The Vineyard is a card that costs a potion. It's a good victory card. You get a point per 3 action cards you have. The Apothecary costs 2 and a potion, so basically you can draw coppers and potions. The University, you gain action cards that cost up to 5, and you get 2 actions. The Alchemist it's 2 cards and an action, so you can draw your deck, and if you have a potion in play, you can then put all the Alchemists back on top of your deck, which will be in your next hand, and so you can just play them all over again. And finally, I've kept the Golem, which is this card which sort of, you find 2 action cards in your deck that aren't golems, and you play them both and discard the rest. So the Golem basically lets you play 2 other action cards, which is pretty cool. Now, that's enough about the old stuff, Let's talk about some new stuff. Starting with the non-potion cost cards. The card on the left is the card that's been removed. The card on the right is the new one. Herbalist is the removed card. It was the $2 action card, which gave you a buy and a coin, and when you discarded a treasure from play, you could put it on top of your deck, which you probably didn't want to do most of the time. The Financer is actually fairly similar. Once this turn, when you discard a treasure from play, you set it aside and put it in your hand at the end of turn. The sort of big difference is the Financer, it goes in your hand at the end of turn, which means you'll actually start with an extra card in your hand, right? You know, the herbalist will put the treasure on top, so potion probably. The finance will actually let you have an extra card in your hand. You will start with 6 cards instead of 5, unless, you know, something happens. Another thing with the financer is when you gain the financer, you can also gain a treasure costing up to 4. Could be a silver, could be a potion, could be something else. Who knows? Just any treasure costing up to 4, it'll probably be a silver or a potion. Next we have the Spellbook. It is an action-reaction card that also costs 2. Gives you a buy and 2 coins, and then you have to discard 2 cards. And the reaction is when you discard the Spellbook, other than during cleanup, which is at the end of your turn, you may trash the Spellbook to gain any action card you like. So, you know those potion cards that are really, you know, they're kind of hard to get sometimes because you got to buy the potion, and then you got to shuffle your deck, and then you got to actually buy the card with the potion. The Spellbook, yeah, you just discard it. The Spellbook lets you discard cards. You can't discard itself unless you've got 2 Spellbooks, but you know, if you can find a way to discard the Spellbook, hey, you can get whatever card you like. Could be a potion cost, could just be a nice expensive card. Otherwise, I mean, a buy in 2 coins is okay, and discarding 2 cards is pretty bad. So you really do want to try and you buy the Spellbook to try and discard it to get something better, basically. The next card we have here is a Communal. This is a pretty interesting card. You get to draw a card, then reveal your hand, and you get an action per 2 action cards you revealed, rounded down. Then you may trash a card from your hand, and then you also get a buy per empty supply pile. So at the start of the game, it's going to be you draw a card, trash a card, which is not bad actually. Then later on, it might be +1 card, +1 action, trash a card from your hand. Well, that's a bit better. Then eventually, if you've got a lot of action cards in your deck, it could be +1 card, +2 actions, maybe even +3 actions, right? Which is, no, that's not too bad. And of course, when piles start running out, it also gives you buys. So it's tricky to use. It's got a lot of different uses. It doesn't do any of them great, but it has a lot of different uses. And if you want to do all these things, which a lot of the time you actually do, you do want actions, you do want to trash cards, you do want buys. It's just the Communal lets you do all those things, just not the easiest way to do any of those things in particular. Other than the trashing's pretty easy, you know, draw a card, trash. That's pretty good actually. Next we have the Draw Bridge. You draw 2 cards, and cards cost 1 less this turn. Well, it's like Bridge or Bridge Troll, where it makes cards cost less, and well, you draw cards, so it's a draw bridge. You get it? It's like a pun. It's a pun because it's like bridge, but you draw cards. Okay, we can move on. The Depository. The first attempt at this was not great, because I actually had people say it was way too strong. Yeah, it probably was. So I sort of redid it, and this is the version I've got. You for $5, you draw until you have 7 cards in hand. Then you could play any number of treasures from your hand, and if this is the first time you played a Depository, you get a coin. So, let's say you've only got 1 of these. You play it, you draw until you have 7. Well, you know, playing the treasures from your hand don't do anything, so it's just draw up to 7 plus 1 coin, which is pretty good still. Obviously, this card gets a lot better if you've got multiple depositories and you've got multiple cards that give you multiple actions. So, like, let's say you play the depository, you draw until you have 7, and you've got 2 more actions left. Alright, you play 3 treasures. So you're down to 4 cards, right? Then you play another depository, so you're down to 3. And then guess what? You draw 4 cards, right? So the depository can be quite good, right? If you can... I mean, it's a bit tricky because, like, the treasures, you don't really want in this sort of deck, but this sort of helps you. It lets you play them at least. It makes it better to have treasures in a sort of this sort of deck. It's not even bad if you just get one, because you get that little +1 coin bonus. So maybe you just want one. Maybe you want to play treasures in the action phase for some other reason. There are treasures which you would like to play earlier in your action phase that you can't normally, and this lets you do it. I still think it's pretty good, but yeah. Next we got the elixir here. Is a $5 treasure that actually, when played, gives you a potion. You then gain a gold onto your deck and a copper to your hand, and there is a setup where you add an extra kingdom card with a potion in its cost. So instead of the normal 10, you'll have an 11th card, which will be a potion cost card. So you'll have potions and the mystical springs. So I mean, this card does cost one more than a regular potion, but I mean, you get golds. They go onto your deck, which is a double-edged sword. Gaining the copper to your hand is nice. Like, it's not good getting coppers, but at least if it goes to your hand, you get the coin out of it. It's very similar to a treasure trove, which is similar, where you get a gold and a copper, and but this is different enough, I would say. And the final non-potion costing card is this county. It is a victory card, which says, worth 1 point per set you have of copper, estate, gold. And when you gain the county, you gain an action card. And this is $6, so this is actually pretty expensive. It's pretty hard to get the points here, I'd say. It's interesting because you start with 7 coppers and 3 estates, so if you can't trash them or get rid of them in any way, you buy 3 golds, and all of a sudden this card is worth 3 points. And when you get it, you get an action card. Whatever action card you like, So it could even be more expensive than, if it's a $7 action card, you could get this in the $7 action card, If it's a potion cost card, sort of same thing, So there's a lot of cool stuff you can sort of do there. The fact that it costs 6 might be worth it, just so you could get it, you get an action card, and then you trash the county for maybe with the apprentice for +6 cards. That sounds worth it. This card's definitely best if you can't trash, and you have cards that give you golds. I don't know, something like elixir. Anyways, if you can trash, this card gets harder to. It's probably not gonna be worth as many points, right? And even then, I think you could have this be worth 7 points, but you need 7 golds, 4 more estates. And of course you're keeping all the coppers and estates, which you don't really want to keep. So but you can try and make it work. Now let's get to these potion costing cards here. This is the first one. We have Chemist. Costs a potion. This lets you discard a potion for 6 coins, which is a lot. If you don't, you get a potion to your hand. Also, in games using the Chemist, when you play a potion, you get a buy. So you can play the potion, buy the Chemist, and buy something else on the same turn, because you'll probably have some money with the potion. Now, it's sort of interesting. You sort of need the Chemist and the potion together. If you do, 6 coins is a lot, but then you need the buy, right? You're not getting the buy if you discard the potion. You actually have to play the potion. So, there's something there as well to think about. You want 6 coins. If you do, you need to somehow draw the potion back up again and then play it. Next we have the Resurrector. Also costs a potion. You get an action. You gain a non-victory card from the trash onto your deck. Any card from the trash you want that's not a victory card. In fact, you have to. And there's also a setup where you choose any kingdom card not in the game, costing 5 or 6. So let's say the apprentice, and you put all the copies in the trash. So there'll be 10, let's say there's 10 apprentices in the trash. The Resurrector can essentially resurrect them back from the dead or out of the trash and puts them on top of your deck for you to use next turn. Or if you can draw it that turn. That's pretty cool. It definitely depends on that card that's in the trash, right? I mean, if it's 10 apprentices, then that's not that's alright, I guess. If it's 10 witches, yeah, I'll do that probably. If it's like 10, I don't know, some bad $5 card, merchant ship. I probably don't want. I probably don't want that many merchant ships. So yeah. The next card is this Tombstone, which replaces the Philosopher's Stone. They're actually pretty different. The sort of the only real similarities is that they're both treasures that cost a potion. The Philosopher's Stone costs $3 as well, and they both get better as the game goes on. That's sort of the main. That's sort of the similarities. The Philosopher's Stone, you count your deck and discard pile, and you get a coin per 5 cards between them. So basically, you wanted a big fat deck that also you couldn't draw, which is actually a very bad deck. If you've got a deck like that, then you probably should make a different deck. So yeah, Philosopher's Stone is it's not that strong at all. Not good. The Tombstone is, on the other hand, quite strong. I would say it's probably the strongest card here, if I had to guess. When you play the Tombstone, you trash it, so it's a one-time thing. But if you do, you get a coin per tombstone in the trash, including it. So the first tombstone is worth $1. The second one, $2. And then eventually, if you somehow, the 10th tombstone, if all the other tombstones are in the trash, it's a $10, which is absolutely absurd. But, that takes a while. The more important part is actually when you gain the tombstone, you get to trash up to 3 cards from your hand. And because this card costs just 1 potion, you're gonna have some leftover cards in your hand to trash. So, the tombstone basically lets you trash cards very quickly, which is always a very good thing in Dominion. So yeah, I reckon this card's quite good. The tombstone even takes care of itself because it also trashes itself. The only thing you can't trash is the potion, so eventually you might be stuck with a potion, but I mean that's worth trashing everything else. The next card we have, Black Magic, replacing Familiar. This is a pretty direct replacement. The Familiar, get a card and an action, each other player gains a curse. It's a $3 in a potion. The Black Magic is $2 in a potion, so it's cheaper. It's a card and an action. Each other player gains a curse and also may trash a curse from their hand. You get a coin per empty supply pile. So, why did Familiar get replaced? Because getting $3 in a potion early on is very annoying. The chances of you getting it are good enough where sometimes, if you need Familiar, because curses can be quite, the curses can be very hard to deal with. So you want to give it to other players if you can. If you don't get, if you get $2 in a potion, which is decently likely, that's incredibly sad. Black Magic fixes that issue by it just costs 2, so that situation can happen unless you somehow get $1 in a potion. But god damn, that's a fair bit less likely. You need all 3 of your starting estates and the potion in one hand, which is, the Black Magic is not necessarily better than the Familiar though, because every time you give out a curse, if they've got a curse in their hand, they can trash it, which basically means sometimes the attack's just not going to work, right? I mean, they get a curse, but then they lose a curse, so it does nothing, right? There is a second benefit where for every empty supply pile you get a coin. That's pretty good, What's a pile that's going to run out? The curses are going to run out pretty quickly, so hey, Black Magic, once all the curses run out, we'll still give you $1, right? That's not bad, a +1 card, plus an action, $1. And hey, if another pile runs out, oh look, that's +2 coins now. The Familiar, once the curses ran out, just did nothing, basically. Next we have the Exchequer, if I've pronounced that correctly. It's a $2 in a potion card. It is you draw 2 cards and you get an action. Then you got to discard 2 cards, and then you look through your discard pile, reveal any number of coppers and potions from it, and then put them into your hand. So this card is a little bit like the Apothecary way. It's a card that gets you coppers and potions. Instead, but the checker gets it from the discard pile, which is very similar to the removed card Counting House, where you look through your discard pile, you reveal any number of coppers, put it in your hand. The big difference is this card is a lot stronger, I would say, because you draw. First of all, this doesn't cost an action, right? You get the action back, so draw 2 cards on an action, discard 2. You discard 2 coppers, right? You just get them right back. So this is there's a couple of interesting things. You could use this if this is, maybe if you got 6 coppers in your discard pile, boom, you drew a bunch of coppers, awesome. But even if, let's say you had there was none, right, and you drew 2 cards and it was 2 coppers. Okay, then you discard those coppers, and then those coppers go straight back to your hand. So essentially this card was plus 2 cards plus 1 action. It was a long way around to get there, but that's actually not too bad for $2 on a potion. It's not great, but I'll take that. And sometimes it'll be better than that, and yes, it could also be worse than that sometimes. If you've got no coppers or potions, don't buy this. The next card we've got is the Renovate, replacing the Transmute. The Transmute, you trashed a card and you gained something depending on what it was. It was very slow. Like, you buy the potion, you shuffle a deck, you then buy the Transmute, you shuffle a deck, you then, it trashes very slowly too, so it was not worth it a lot of the time to get Transmute. Renovate is sort of similar. You trash a card from your hand, and then you get something costing up to 2 more than it. That's not Renovate. You also, when you gain a card this turn, you can put it on top of your deck. So whatever card you gained that costed up to 2 more than what you trashed, you can put it on top of your deck. So you trash that gold, you get a province. I mean, don't put that on your deck, but you could trash a potion and then get a gold, and then if you want to, you could put the gold on top of your deck if you want. The other benefit is when you gain the Renovate, you can play it right away. So hey, I buy the Renovate, boom, I can trash an estate and get a smithy, for an example. That's pretty good, and I can put the smithy right on top of my deck. So still a little slow, but I mean it's a lot faster than Transmute, I'll tell you that right now. Although I do like Transmute, I just wish it costed something else, or just did something a little more, because it's just not strong. Like you did not want to trash treasures to get more Transmute. That sucks. The only thing you want out of Transmute is the gold or the duchies. Alright, next up we have the Forecaster replacing the Scrying Pool. Very similar. The Scrying Pool did this attack where you sort of looked at the top of everyone's deck, including your own, and you decided whether you put it back or discard it. Then you drew cards from your deck until you reveal one that wasn't an action card, and all the revealed cards go into your hand. So the idea was you just have a deck full of action cards, and then you just draw your whole deck. That's incredible if you can get that to work. And the Forecaster is similar, it costs 1 more, it also does not do the attack, right? Which, while that did hurt the other players, also it gave you a small bonus. So to compensate, you actually get 2 actions instead of 1, which is that's actually very nice. Doesn't feel like a lot. It probably is. The Forecaster is probably slightly weaker than the Scrying Pool, if I had to guess. But the thing with the attack was, like, if someone else had the Scrying Pool, they would just put a bad card on top of your deck, and then you would just immediately discard it. With the Forecaster, that's not going to happen, so, it's essentially an extra action. Yeah, it's pretty simple. Pretty simple change there. Next we've got the Magician, a $3 potion action-reaction card. You draw 3 cards, then you may discard a card for a buy and a coin, and the reaction is when any player plays a potion, you can play the Magician from your hand. I like to think of there's 3 different ways you play this. You play it the normal way, you draw 3 cards, and if you want, discard a card for a buy and a coin. Okay, that's alright. However, you could play the potion during your buy phase, and then you could play the magician during your buy phase for free, and you could discard a card for a buy and a coin. The downside is you can't, if you drew more action cards or something, you can't play them, right? You could discard them for money, but, you know, probably wanted to play those action cards if you could. The final thing is if another player plays a potion, right, you could play it out of turn, draw 3 cards. You're not going to discard for a buy and a coin because you don't actually get it because it's not your turn. But I mean, I will absolutely take drawing 3 cards for free before my turn has even started. So, you know, a lot of different, a lot of flexible, I guess I would say. The next card we have is a Warlock. It is a $3 potion action attack card. This gives you 3 coins. Each of the player discards down to 3 cards in hand, then gains a curse to their hand. But in games using the Warlock, the curse is also an action card with +1 card, +1 action. So, first thing I want to mention is, yes, this does cost 3 in a potion, which is, as I said, was an annoying cost to get. And this card gives out potions, right? It attacks, you know, so isn't that the same problem as Familiar? I don't think so, because the curses don't do a whole lot, right? You lose a point, I guess, but the curses give you a card and an action, so they don't clog up your deck at all. Like, you can just play the curse and just skip right past it, right? I mean, yes, discarding down to 3 kind of sucks, but then you gain the curse to your hand. So really, the Warlock is 3 coins, each of the player discards down to 4 cards in hand. And loses a point, you know. And then eventually, once the curses run out, it will just be 3 coins, each of the player discards down to 3, which isn't... That's not that much better than the Militia, right? For $4, you know, I mean, that's the same as Militia, but it's $2 instead of 3, you know. Okay. I mean, yeah. The curses being an action card also could just be helpful sometimes. I mean, hey, you know that Scrying Pool / Forecaster? That would love to have all these curses, these action curses. That's free draw, you know? So, yeah, I mean, yeah, the curses don't hurt nearly as much. But yeah, I mean, I like it, you know, I like it. The second last card is the Puppeteer. +4 cards. Each of the player with 5 or more cards in hand reveals a card from their hand. You may either trash it or have them gain a copy of it. So, this is a $4 potion card. It is an attack. Drawing 4 cards is very nice. I mean, that's pretty good. The attack is interesting. The players would reveal a card of their choice. So let's say they reveal a copper. You could either trash that copper or have them gain another copper. You want them to gain another copper. Then you could play the Puppeteer again, because guess what? They didn't. They still got 5 cards in their hands, so you could then attack them again. They reveal a copper. You can make them gain multiple coppers, you know, which that hurts, you know. Not as much as a curse or anything, but it could hurt a little. The other option is, right, let's say they reveal a gold. You could be like, trash the gold, because you don't want them to get another gold, right? So you say they trash it, and then the attack no longer works, right? You know, because they're now down to 4 cards in hand. So if you do play another Puppeteer, it doesn't do anything. You know, so I like this thing of like, if you're being attacked, do you reveal a good card that you know it's probably going to get trashed, or do you reveal a bad card and just sort of hope, you know, you just accept they're going to get another copy of it. And the final card is the Fountain of Youth, which is a $5 potion card, and it replaces Possession. I do not feel like reading Possession right now. I mean, you could just see how absurd this card is. Look at all that text. It mentions debt. Debt isn't even a part of this expansion at all. Which is what that hexagon is. I mean, its Possession is this: you get another turn with your opponent's. You play your opponent's deck, and there's all sorts of. It is like a complete. Is the most ridiculous card. I mean, I kind of respect how absurd it is, but it's a bit much, I would probably say. I do think this new version where you can't get a second extra turn in a row is better than the old version at least, because the old version you could just get multiple extra turns in a row, which at that point that's not fun. You know, at least with this new version, it's a nerf, right? You can only get one extra turn, but you know, still, you're playing with my deck. Stop it, please. You know. But it did cost 6 at a potion, at least. The Fountain of Youth is sort of similar, vaguely, in the sense of the possession. Essentially, sure, you get to play with your opponent's deck, but essentially, the possession was you got extra cards, right? You bought an extra card, or maybe you know, you did whatever, right? And the Fountain of Youth essentially is that, right? You gain a non-victory card other than the Fountain of Youth straight to your hand. Gold, any extra card that you like other than Fountain of Youth. That's really, really good. And at the start of cleanup this turn, if you've got a potion in play, you could trash it to gain a duchy. So hey, those potions, maybe you only want like 2 Fountain of Youth. Once you don't need that potion anymore, you can trash it and get a duchy, you know, which is 3 points. So this card does a fair bit, right? I mean, the earlier you get this, the better for sure, but are you gonna get it? Well, it's pretty expensive. But I mean, once you get it, I mean, you could just get a bunch, you know, you get a gold straight to your hand, you can get whatever action card you want to your hand. I think it's pretty good. And that is it for the Alchemy 2nd edition, the fan-made 2nd edition, right? I hope you liked the cards I've designed here. If you did, like and subscribe. This one, yeah, a bit trickier to do than Dark Ages for sure, but this was fun. Anyways, yeah, I'll see you all next time.